All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Gabriel Miguel. I'm the founder and executive director of the Anastasia Foundation, and we are building the Ringing Cedars movement in the English-speaking world and internationally, honestly, other languages too, by connecting, inspiring, and empowering Ringing Cedars readers everywhere. And this call is all about that. This is the international community call, recently switched to international from just North America because we had people joining from all over the world. And you'll see today that we've got people from all across the world here. And I'm sure in the future we'll have more. So this is a relaxed, informal, casual discussion related to Ringing Cedars topics. You can share any ideas or stories that you have, or ask questions to the group, or anything you like. There's no pressure to talk or participate. You can participate as much or as little as you like. You can just listen the whole time. You can speak as much as you like as well, within reason, with respect to the other participants. And I expect, everybody to be as kind and understanding and patient as possible with all of our discussions here. And yeah, we're just gonna have a good time. Um, and usually these calls are really inspiring. And what happens is a good and lively discussion winds up taking shape on its own. So, what I want to start with, what I usually like to start with, oh, we've got two more people waiting to join here. Uh, um, Let me let them in. I love to ask everybody if they would share their location. So, if you want to drop your location in the chat and we can see where everybody is checking in from, that would be awesome. I am in Asheville, North Carolina, and today we're joined by some special friends. We've got Prakriti, who is part of our team. She's in Japan. She creates all these beautiful short videos for our social media. We've got Galina, who is my assistant and invaluable. And she is in Karelia, Russia, which is a really beautiful and interesting place. So she made the effort to be with us quite late over there. So glad you made it, Galina. So we've got Mark in New Mexico, Santa Fe. We've got Vermont, Southern California, Oklahoma, Florida, New York. Man, I love seeing this. This makes me so happy. We've got Monty. I know he's in England, in London, Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah, this is cool, guys. All over the United States. Got Europe. Uh, so is that four continents technically? Three, I guess, four if you want to be generous. Um, that's pretty cool. I like that. Um, awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for making the time to be here. I appreciate your time. I think you will find that this will be well worth it. I think this is going to be a really interesting experience. If you haven't been on one of these before, usually a lot of fun. So, how I like to do this is I like to have people just introduce themselves. If you don't want to introduce yourself for any reason, you don't have to. Again, participate as much or as little as you'd like. But I don't really come to these things with a structured idea of what we're going to discuss. Usually just takes form from what people share. But if you have any ideas or any questions or anything that you would like to discuss with the group, please feel free to share that. Um, and then when the discussion gets going as well, feel free to just jump in at any time. This is a conversation between all of us, and I try to do my best to not like speak so much myself unless you guys want me to say anything, then I'm happy to do that. Uh, okay, we've got Victoria, Australia here as well, so that's at least four continents, so that's pretty awesome. Elizabeth, welcome from Australia, representing for Australia. I love that. Um, Okay, Sedona, Arizona, Southern California, San Francisco. Yeah, and Galina borders with Finland. She's on the most northern Kins domain settlement in Russia. Fun fact. Very interesting and beautiful place up there. So, all right, my friends. Um, I feel like I'm a little repetitive when I introduce myself. I could, but maybe somebody else could get started. So, if anybody would like to just share a little bit about yourself, maybe how you found the books and maybe what your interests are, could be brief. Um, but please feel free to go ahead if anybody would like to. I see a lot of familiar faces here as well. I don't want to call on anybody, man. I feel bad when I put people on the spot.
Hey Gabriel, it's David. I'll jump in and share. It's my first call,
Awesome.
so glad to be here. David Andrews, currently residing in Florida, but in the process of moving back to my homeland, which is Minnesota. So all of the stories of northern kin domains in Russia have inspired me to embrace winter and return to my roots. So I'm excited about that. I have family there, so that's kind of my calling to go back, living closer to children and grandchildren. My parents are still there. So, yeah, so I'm in transition. I actually, my beach house is for sale. This house I'm in right now is for sale. And when everything happens here, I'll be moving back to Minnesota. And I'm in the process of renovating a cargo trailer and turning it into an RV and looking to purchase land in Minnesota and start a kin's domain. Hopefully, even a settlement if I can sort it all out with the zoning ordinances. And finding
Mm,
land that is eligible for a settlement, if anyone has any experience or knows anyone who's done it in America, I'd be very open to chatting with them because it's quite a process. I've been probably searching for 6 months and trying to learn as much as I can by talking to
hmm
various county officials. So yeah, I've read all the books. I found them about 6 years ago, and I took the advice in the front cover to read them in nature literally. And so I only read half of the first book because I couldn't get myself away from the hustle and bustle of life into nature. And I set the books aside and did not return to them until 6 years later. So last year, I was reacquainted, ordered them all, and now have read them all and love it. So that's just a little background.
That's awesome, brother. Welcome. I feel like I recognize your name or your face maybe from Telegram or Facebook or something. And
I'm in the Telegram
good
chats
to
a little
connect.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is this your first time meeting or talking with other
Yeah.
readers?
First time
Just
on the
out of
call. Yes,
curiosity.
sir. I'm excited to meet some
Yeah,
more people. Otherwise, I've just chatted
yeah.
with people on Telegram. That's it.
Got you. But you've never like spoken or met other readers in real life or anything?
No. In fact, I finally
Yeah.
met somebody who's read all the books. Randomly
Okay.
a total different person. She's not on any of the groups, but that was kind of exciting. It's pretty rare, but it's fun.
Gotcha. And we definitely have people and myself that could contribute some insight to the question about searching for land for settlements in the US.
Yeah,
You and I, we can connect after, and I'd love to share more about that. I've got some people who are more experienced than me in those things, but I have some insights and things as well
that
about
would be
it.
awesome.
And
Yeah, thank you.
and by the way, are you aware that there's a 10th book as well? A lot of people aren't aware of that.
Yeah, I got a hold of the
Okay, got the
PDF.
10th book.
Was able to get a hold of that one and read it too. Yeah, they're all amazing.
Beautiful. And the last thing, what about the this one is a real deep cut, but the 2021 updated edition of book 1 that has 13 new chapters in it that were added in
Don't think I've seen
2021.
that. No. How do we
I'll
get a
give
hold of
you that
that?
right now. Yep. So I'm just making sure everybody's up to date with everything. So if you go to that link that I just put in the chat, I have the whole Ringing Cedars collection of PDFs. We
Okay.
translated the new chapters as well as I could into English. It's pretty readable, honestly. But you'll see, it'll say new chapters, the name of the file there, and it picks up from where book 10 leaves off.
Oh,
Really
fantastic.
amazing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of updates and things in there. So anybody who's finished book 10, or if you need book 10, book 10's in that link too. Anastasia.foundation/books. But that's where you get it all. More reading.
Beautiful.
Yes, sir. All right. Glad to have you. Um, all right. That was great. Anybody else wanna share with the group? Oh, hey, Galina. Yeah, I see you got your hand up. Go for
Yeah.
it.
Good afternoon or good evening, I suppose, for everybody. My name is Galina. I'm from Russia. I'm living in King's Domain. I relocated here in 2020. I'm living with my husband, with my kids here, and I'm joining the school today. It's really challenging. It's 1 a.m. in Moscow. But I managed to sleep a couple of hours before the meeting, and I hope to proceed in, like 2 hours of the meeting. I just don't know why I'm here. I really had to motivate myself to stand up. But once again, I saw the video from the previous message because Gabriel records all the calls, community calls, and I felt maybe the energy, and somehow I wanted to first of all, I wanted to see all these people because I mostly communicate with Gabriel as we are dealing with this foundation stuff, things, and so on. I help him a lot. I work with a couple of people, and I want to see, are these people real? Who is talking about? I see the pictures, and I see Facebook and Telegram and all the chats. Are these really somewhere very far, far away? Do they really exist? And it's very interesting to hear your stories, how the books could like touch people's souls, even in spite of all the translations and all the difficulties. How do you feel it? And so it was. I'm in the. I want to hear just the stories and realize. I've heard I know a lot of Russian stories, but you are still like a miracle for me that you're all here, and uh, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Galina. And Galina was telling me separately as well that right, because it's so popular in Russia, she's living on a settlement and there's families there and there's hundreds of settlements across Russia. But like the idea that this is real in other places and that there's people really working towards this and that we all actually exist and it's real outside of Russia, I know is really interesting to her. So, Galina, I'm so glad to have you here, and thank you for making the effort to be present with us at this time. I know it's pretty late, but glad you made it for at least one of these. So, so glad to
Yes,
have you.
yeah,
Beautiful,
thank you.
beautiful.
I'll
All
just
right,
like to say, okay, can I just say something? Are you
please.
here? I wasn't sure. I'm so wrapped up in my technology, I'm never sure whether it's working or not. Talking was it Dave Andrews who said that he had started reading the books out in nature and then got sidetracked and so on, and other people who've read all the books. I came to a kind of halt 2 weeks ago when I read all, and I was determined to read them in sequence. So you won't remember, but when I first spoke last time, I received book 1 and 6. I got book 6 specifically because it talks of kin's domains, and the kin's domain reference I first heard from the Inspired channel by Jean Nolan when he mentioned them a few years ago. And
Mhm.
because I've been interested in creating a farmstead for some time, the Kin's Domain book seemed like the right thing to get on a limited initial budget. So I got book 1 and got book 6. I got so intensely emotionally involved in the stories from book 1 to book 6 that while I was waiting for books 2, 3, 4, and 5 to arrive, I reread book 1 and then I reread book 6 and then I read 2, 3, 4, 5. And then book 7 came and I read that. And I also had this time got book 8.2 or 9. So the last week has been a little frustrating because somewhere in the wonderful supply chain is book 8.1, which I thought was going to arrive last weekend, but didn't. And but the whole thing, I think it is helpful to read them in sequence because you get the context. As McGray is meeting with Anastasia, and I mean, I think what Vladimir has done in this story is absolutely incredible. The way he's been able to separate the different segments into logical sequence in all these books. Remember all this information and put it down is extraordinary to me. And the whole thing, I've been telling people around me all about it. What I've come to realize is that the vast majority of population, certainly here in America, seems to me to have become so indoctrinated, apart from those who we might say are Trumpers, the 80 million or so who are supposed to have voted for Trump, then possibly a lot of those people are fully awake and aware of what's going on. But there's supposedly 330 or so million people in America. And on my street, unfortunately, the laugh of the street, but most of the people on the street still believe in the DNC nonsense bullshit. But this poor lady actually has a Kamala vote for president sign outside her house. And unfortunately, a lot of people who themselves are in that group are secretly laughing at her, thinking, what a silly thing to be promoting. They want somebody else, but they're not clear on who. Anyway, I don't want to introduce a political discussion. That's the last thing I want to do. I'm not interested in politics. I'm interested in homesteading, farmsteading, and the whole book series is great. My point of bringing this up is that my attempts to get other people to realize how removed we are in this day and age from our pristine origins has been like pushing water uphill with a rake. It's they just don't seem to be able to understand how encapsulated in modern materialism they are, and that to me is a sadness, because I feel the more people we can get to understand the real benefits of being connected to nature, the better it will be for everybody. So this resistance to actually hearing the story or thinking about the story is a little bit disappointing and a little frustrating. So what you were doing, Gabriel and Galina, Galina, thank you. I heartily support you. I'm totally with you, and I am determined to do what I can to support the whole idea of us getting back to our pristine origins, because I think that's where the world needs to go if it's going to survive in any shape or form at all. Okay. So I rest my case. I yield my seat, or whatever they say in government.
Yeah, thank you. And to your point, Tim, I see you have your hand up. I just wanted to comment on something here. So we had a beautiful inaugural Knoxville, Tennessee meetup yesterday. I drove out from Asheville and went to Knoxville. We had about 10 of us there. Fantastic. Spent the whole day together. And a couple things. There was one guy who read book 1 through 3, and then he read book 8.2. And then he's like, he doesn't have the rest of them. And just, still he was blown away with book 8.2 and just how much was there. So it's interesting, people reading it out of series, as you said, out of the order, but still being impacted. But the thing about Kin's domains and everything Anastasia says, I mentioned to someone yesterday at our gathering, that's why I brought up the gathering, that there's something here for everyone, even for the most practically minded people. I try to always emphasize the point that everything the Ringing Cedars books talks about are the most practical ideas that we could be discussing, right? If we have our own land, control our food, and are creating the conditions for a society, new conditions for a new civilization, right? Conditions where crime and inflation and all of these, drug addictions or lack of love between families and broken families and all this, where they can't exist, right? Those conditions can't exist. We're talking about the most practical thing here. If people want to look at it from the, environmental regenerative angle, each family planting hundreds of trees and then thousands of bushes and flowers. There's that. You don't have to pay them. They'll do it for free. The labor's free. It's very low capital to get all this started. You want to talk about food security. You want to talk about making our nation strong. You want to talk about happy families are raising well-educated children. I mean, every single angle. You want to talk about the spiritual things, our connection with God. Every single point is addressed like thoroughly, thoroughly. And that's the thing. So there's something for everybody. I've told the Kins domain idea to people who would not consider them, just hard-boiled like entrepreneurs, like ultra high net worth people, people who've never heard of these kinds of things. And then they're like, really? That's real? Like, where can I join? This is real? Like, how can I get involved in this kind of thing? Right. And because it's inherently such a rational idea. And if someone's mind and to a degree, I guess their heart is open to considering new possibilities and being reasonable about how we can approach these things, and I think there's something for everybody, you know? And that's the most beautiful thing about this. So I just wanted to share that. And Tim, I saw you got your hand up, so please.
Thanks. Yeah, that's I was just going to share some of my experiences. Just yeah, I mean, I resonate with everything you're saying there, Gabriel. There is a lot there where you I too have brought up these concepts, Anastasia's teachings, the Ringing Cedars books, and you just break it down into, a different way. And yeah, people listen. They at least the seed is planted at least, and they're kind of like, oh wow, well, there's another way. Um, but yeah, just kind of over the years, I've been involved in a variety of groups, again, trying to form community and kind of to David's point, and how do we start and what do we do? And just about 13 years ago, my wife and I left the corporate world, left New York, and moved to Vermont, and we bought land and just started. And it was sort of, intimidating because both of us grew up in the suburbs, which we joke, suburban kids have like no skills. Um, we're like, all right, how do we do anything? And my wife loves to garden and loves growing things, so she's always experimenting. And so we just started, and we started slowly, like, okay, what do we want to do? And started planting trees, thinking about the future, thinking about our kids. And so we planted a bunch of fruit trees, many of which are finally, doing well. And we had a big blueberry patch, and we produced like 30 gallons of blueberries a year. And along the way, we had one child, but then along the way, we had a second child, and then my parents moved up close. And so in a way, we started kind of like, reintegrating the family, like, okay. And, my dad has stated, like, I don't want to be in a nursing home. I don't want to be a burden on you. I don't want to be, but like, please don't put me in a nursing home. And so we're like, okay, let's explore these concepts of how do we, take care of the young and the elderly, and just create that at least on our own. And then can we expand that concept? And this was kind of before I knew about the books. And I came across the books like 5, 6 years ago and kind of spot read through a few, and then recently kind of was going through more thoroughly, and was really kind of like intuitively we've kind of gotten to some of the concepts, and it's really neat to read more about it. But um, I partly why I'm here is just like as Galina, just to kind of like lend energy and support to the group, and you create what you want with our thoughts and with our energy. So recently, we just felt the energy actually calling us away, pulling us away, and so we're going to actually sell our land. It's a long story, and it's but it's kind of sad because
Mhm.
we started this, the weather's been a little weird in Vermont. We had a couple of really dry years, and then we had a really wet year last year, like too wet, not enough sun. And then this year is like the first year in like 4 years where we've got like really good weather, where enough sun, enough rain, and we've had, our blueberries, our cherries, our pears, our peaches, like we have all this fruit. Our vegetables are going crazy. And we're kind of like, oh wow, this was the vision that it's here, but we're also, this is it. This is the swan song. We're leaving this land, and we'll leave it hopefully in a better place for someone else to come along and take up the mantle. But yeah, it was just kind of this bittersweet, experience of like, okay, we didn't know what we were doing. We planned everything. We read a lot, we researched a lot, and but we just kind of start. Yeah, we made some mistakes, and we say,
Mm.
okay, we would do this or do that differently, and um, we may get that opportunity because we certainly are looking for, again, community. We're looking for more land. We're not really sure where we're going to end up at this point. We're kind of taking my parents, they're going to move out to Michigan, and we're going to sort of figure out what we're going to do from there. We're not really sure. We're in that transition state. But again, looking for that community and building that community, and along the way, building skills, and um, yeah, trying to contribute to going forward.
Can I just drop in something there, Tim and Gabriel? I
Of course. And anybody who wants to drop in at any time, feel free. It's open discussion.
yeah, I appreciate that. Tim, I may be considered as a conspiracy theorist, one of those dreadful people that the deep state doesn't want to hear from. And I don't have any way to predict the future. I don't have a looking glass app or any of that sort of thing. However, from all of the research I've done, and my background in advanced technology has taught me a lot about researching, I have a feeling that since you've already created what you've created, unless you got past the point of no return and you are in love with what you've created, don't jump from the frying pan into the fire. Make the most of what you got. You've had a beautiful year this year. I am convinced that one of the things that we've been having to deal with is weather control. Now, this is not theory, this is fact. In Alaska and various other parts of the world, the nefarious ones who've always wanted to control us have been building and creating these HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. You can research it. Don't use Google. For goodness sake, don't ever use Google if you can avoid it. But use DuckDuckGo or some other search tool to find the information, otherwise you're not going to find it. HAARP is a vast antenna array where they can pump radio frequencies, high energy frequencies, into the atmosphere. And what this does is literally it's microwaving the atmosphere. So they can actually manipulate the weather. They've been controlling things like tornadoes and hurricanes. And the big deep freeze in Texas, for instance, was a man-made event. It wasn't an act of God or an act of Gaia, the earth. It actually has been documented as an example of weather manipulation. So your weather in Vermont that's been so disappointing for you for a couple of years, I can't absolutely prove this without doing research, because that particular area is not one that I've paid a lot of attention to. But judging from what you were telling me and from what I know in the larger picture, I wouldn't mind betting that the reason the weather has improved is because the forces that have been, and this is biblical, it literally goes back eons, in thousands of years, because even Anastasia talks about, remember the story about the 6 priests and how they could control the world, and her 2 grandfathers, great-grandfather, turned out to be part of that group of priests in, which book was it? Was it book 6 or 7? that this is talked
Book
about.
6.
Book 6, was it? You've got great memory, Gabriel. Thank you. But she's actually written about it. She's talked about it. So what I'm saying, is when I read that, I thought, yeah, this fits with everything I've discovered from my own independent research, which was one of the reasons that I got such a thrill in reading the books, because I thought, for someone like Anastasia to be talking about what I know to be true is a hell of a validation. So my whole point is that if you and your wife have devoted so much time and energy into creating your kin's domain, your space of love, please, I would suggest, give it time. Don't rush out and throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you have the patience, if you can just bear with it for a little longer, don't despair. Have optimism. Keep your vibration up. Keep your optimism up. Keep your dream alive. Unless there's some other extenuating circumstances that are forcing you to leave, this would be my 6 penny worth. If I was let me give you another reverse example, if you like. I'm in California. We have this, what I regard as despotic governor. Actually, it's not even the original one, but that's another story. That I call Gruesome Newsom, who keeps coming up with all kinds of new rules to contain us and control us. And people are leaving California in droves. Well, on the one hand, I'm happy about that because I think there's too many people in California anyway. And that's funny coming from a Brit who loves living in California. But I intend to create my domain in California because I'm confident that this Gruesome Newsom group, along with Pelosi and so on, and again, I'm not being political, I'm talking about facts and history and the control group. This is observation from research. And I'm confident that's going to go away. So I am staying in California in spite of all the challenges I've been meeting for the last few years, because I believe that we are coming to a pivotal point, and I don't think we've got that much longer to wait before we're going to have a huge paradigm shift, and the country is going to amalgamate with Canada. We're going to become North American Republic based on the original Constitution of 1776, which will free up land because there are executive orders that Trump laid out where some of the players in this dastardly group, like Gates, are going to have their land confiscated, and he's got millions of acres across the country. Once that land is confiscated and brought into the public domain, then the opportunity to find land at a reasonable price is going to be enormous, in my view. Caveat emptor, you don't have to believe everything I'm telling you. I don't want you to believe everything. Just do your own research. But that's my take on it. I'm staying put because I believe the opportunity is going to be here, not necessarily in Southern California. I'm thinking of going back to Northern California. But I want to create my domain here in California because it's right for me. And that space that I'm looking for is somewhere around 240 acres because I want to create a regenerative food forest farm that becomes a hub for creating other settlements around it. But you obviously must do what's right for yourself and your family. All right, so I yield.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective. Yeah, I agree. I mean, geoengineering is real, and it's hard to guess, what all the effects are, and certainly we've experienced it. But it's a bigger thing. We've always been, both my wife and I, really intuitive, and our decision making comes from that, I guess, broader senses and consciousness. And one of the things I do is we make maple syrup, and I'm really connected to our trees. And I haven't had time because I've been focused more on our kids and their activities and that stuff. So I haven't made maple syrup in 2 years. But the last time I did, I could feel the trees. It was very sad at the end of the season when I was pulling everything down and cleaning up. I felt the trees saying goodbye. And it was a very emotional time
Mm.
for me. And I told this to my wife, and we kind of had a broader conversation around it where we had a sense that we might be leaving. Um, and you know, it's just, I mean, there's a lot to it, and I won't go into all the details, but so we're not despairing over the weather or anything like that. I appreciate your perspective though, that yeah, I think there's a lot of moving parts, but also your other point that I think we are coming to a paradigm shift. A lot of people that I speak to are feeling uneasy, not sure what to do, feeling like maybe they should leave geographically or leave their jobs, or how do they feel secure and safe? And it's it's funny when this is the longest either my wife or I have been in one place in our lives, and so we know a lot of people, and um, in some ways have formed a community, just different ideological, really a geographic community as opposed to on, you know, a kinsdomain community, but nonetheless. And um, interestingly, everyone that we tell this to, first of all, it's kind of come out of the blue. For most people, they didn't think we would be leaving. We thought they're super happy, which we are, but they're all like, wow, that's I'm happy for you. And part of it is because I think there's a lot of this unease, and people like, oh, great, like here's someone who's like, I don't know, going to do something, even though we're kind of going into the great unknown. We have some ideas, but we don't really know where we're going or what's happening next. We're just like super flexible right now. And so anyway, thanks for that. Thanks for the perspective, Petra. And yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, I wish you
Yeah,
all every success for you and your wife and your
I
family.
think it's I think it's a beautiful and brave thing, you know, you feel in your heart and your soul somewhere that life is calling you somewhere new, right? And to act on that and to have faith and trust, I think that's the whole journey that we're on. I think a lot of people here could probably relate to the idea of like relocating, finding your land, really trying to like tune in with yourself and see where you want to go. I know I'm constantly doing it all the time. I feel like I want to live relatively in the area where I'm at, but I'm still constantly like internally with that prayer of like, God, show me where to go. Where is the best place for me, right? Like asking for this guidance in life. And I feel the same way too. Like I have to move from the place where I'm living relatively soon, and just looking right, what's the next chapter? Where am I going? And what does God have in store for me? And yeah, I can totally relate to that. I'm sure a lot of other people here um, can relate to that as well, you know. But we're like shoots finding our way to the sun, right? Like Anastasia talks about when we're searching for answers, that our thought will reach out like sprouts, you know, through the
Yeah.
soil, finding their way to the sun, and we'll find the answers to everything, right? And I think, you know, the beautiful thing, I'm reminded of that story in book 7 when, spoiler alert, sorry, anybody who hasn't gotten that far, but when Anastasia, well, God basically takes the form of a child and he speaks to Anastasia. Anastasia's saying all these things about people's aspirations, and people are trying and dreaming about creating kinsdomains and they're working towards them. And then God says, thank you, sons and daughters, for your aspirations. You know, it's like these dreams and these goals, they matter to God directly, like very much. So I definitely think that anyone who's working towards it is going to be helped and blessed, because
Yes.
life itself wants to see us all succeed with this, you know. So
Absolutely.
all the best to you and your family, Tim, and I appreciate you sharing about this totally.
Yeah. And the other
Thank
thing,
you.
Tim, is that at least you've had a chance to do a beta project. If nothing else, you know you can do it. So wherever you land, you've got the skills and experience that you can now turn into good use. So one way or the other, whether you end up staying or you're moving, there's nothing lost.
Yeah, absolutely. And really the first leap of faith was 13 years ago, because both my wife and I, we were in the corporate world, and saving money, and we knew like this was what we wanted to do. And you're kind of like, wow, maybe one more year, we'll just save one more year, and then you're like,
Yeah.
then life starts to happen, and we both felt at the same time like, no, we got to go. And so we did, and we've had an amazing experience. We've met a lot of people and a lot of different homesteaders and learned a lot of different skills, and been a part of some broader communities, some online, some in person, and to try to start to understand, how is a community going to function? How do you organize yourselves? How do you, dispute resolution? And why do some
Yeah.
communities or groups succeed and others fail? So we've had, experience with that. And yeah, we've had an amazing journey. And we actually, I mean, it's bittersweet that we're leaving because it's a beautiful place, a beautiful plot of land, and all as I talked about, all the stuff that we've done has kind of come to fruition. But we're kind of happy. It's sort of like a send off because we're like, oh, like our cherry tree that was struggling for the last few years, like produced enough cherries that we had, a ton of cherries that we've never had before.
Yeah.
Just little things like that. We just felt like blessed. It's like the land saying goodbye to us or giving us, that harvest or that bounty as a send off. So
Yeah. Like you said, it came
You
to
know,
fruition, right? All the intentions that you set forward, they came to fruition, and you can see it and you're like, it's done, you did it, and you made the earth more beautiful, man. You did exactly what Anastasia talks about. You perfected the dwelling land. You created life in abundance where there was maybe not as much or maybe none. And the earth is feels that. So, you're a net positive on this planet, man. And that's a beautiful thing. A lot of people can't really say that for themselves. And so, um, I can relate to that a lot.
yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, when we got the land, it was an old farm, like old, but old farmers also just ditched their equipment wherever. And so we actually did a lot of cleanup as well when the first couple of years, as well as starting to plant and all that stuff. But over the years, we did try to bring more people in a variety of situations. Like we don't live there. We don't have a dwelling. We did have a yurt for a while, and we thought about building a cabin, and we kind of explored that, what and how to go about it, and we thought long and hard about it, and we don't really like a lot of the modern building practices, and um,
Totally.
we, yeah, and so we looked at other people and bringing other people in, and we had a couple interviews, and we've met some people, and nothing, it never really kind of worked, um, which was okay. I mean, it's again, it's just part of that process of like we kind of go from this unhealthy world, this kind of modern living to like how do we get all the way over here, and it's kind of like
Mm,
baby steps. So. Yeah,
mm.
we've learned a lot, and we'll take our skills with us, and whatever comes next, we'll be able to hopefully contribute.
when it
Maybe
comes to
God was
creating
just
communities that work,
teaching and giving you, prepping you for what's next, maybe
yeah, exactly.
saving and putting you on the direction. It's hard to tell like how he does everything and how he arranges everything, but certainly the intention must be fulfilled, right? Certainly.
Right.
Especially such a bright intention as well. And something that Tim, you're making me think, I mentioned this in the comments, but I want to mention this to the group as well and to anybody watching this later. I'm launching in the relative near future, as soon as I'm able to, an international Kins domain settlement directory. I think I may have showed it on one of the last community calls, but
Yes, you did.
parallel with that, when I launch it, I'm also going to be launching a private settlement founders group. So for anybody who's actually like, creating a community and they're actually doing it, of Kins domain settlement, you can join the group and get support and speak with other real founders and people who are really doing things and creating things on the ground. And I think a network like that could be really, really useful for everybody involved. And there's so much that people could learn and share. And, eventually we can publish what people share and insights and things and help connect people internationally and help people support because we're all learning so much. And if we're able to share our knowledge, and get support and fellowship from each other. I think that that would be very good. So Tim, wherever you wind up on your journey, the door is certainly open for you to join that group, and anybody else who is going to be doing the same thing. David, you mentioned potentially buying land, starting a settlement. I'll be a member of the group because I'll be starting a settlement too. And we've got many other people who are already kind of on the list. So I think that I just want to put that out there for the group.
The other thing is when it comes to organizing communities, check out a guy by the name of Michael Tellinger, Tellinger, in South Africa. He started something called One Small Village, if I remember rightly. And the concept there is...
Yeah, he's the Ubuntu movement.
Thank you. I was trying to remember that.
Yep.
Yeah, check out the Ubuntu movement, because you might get some additional ideas from that, which will help you and your wife come to a conclusion on how you want to move forward. Okay, that's all I wanted to add there.
Beautiful. And I just put in the chat as well, I was reminded of this article we published recently, Kins Domain Settlements versus Eco Villages, because so many of the notions that we have of organizing communities, especially in the Western world, are based on insights and observations from a model that is completely different than what we're attempting to do here, right? Like eco villages being very fundamentally different from settlements. So I found that article really valuable. There's 2 more in that series that are going to be published actually after we did our last Russia-America exchange event. Alexei and his wife were inspired to write 2 more articles about that. So Galina is helping me with those. We're going to be publishing those soon, but look out for those. But yeah, it's an interesting idea, right? That's why I would love for people to connect about this. I really want to connect founders because we're doing something very different here than a lot of things that have been attempted before, you know?
Yeah, you know, just to speak on that, it's one of the things that I've been doing is reading about and studying different communities, intentional communities, eco villages, and there's some that have been around a long time. There's one in India, there's one in
Yep.
Italy, there's actually one in Massachusetts, and some have, you know, worked and some have not, or some have like let's call it like a strong founder that everybody kind of listens to, and then the founder passes on or dies or whatever, and then things fall apart. And so how do you, you know,
They
come
mentioned
together
that in
with
that
a...
article I just linked, by the way.
Yeah, that's a
It's an
great
interesting
article.
point.
I've read that before, and it's
Yep.
just, yeah, it really reflects the I guess my experience of you know, you want this common ideology, because then that also helps with dispute resolutions where you're coming from the same place, or a common kind of understanding of what your goals are, where you're trying to go. And the idea of also each kins domain is self-sufficient. It is your kind of play. It's a decentralized versus everything is communal or common, and it is a different model, but I really like it. I think, I mean, to me, that's where we want to go. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. The beautiful thing that I observe about domains is what you're saying, like this collective idea, this collective thing. Everybody on the settlement is united by an aspiration that they all hold very, very dear, right? Like the motivating factor for most people is something really, really, really deep, right? Like this connection with my land, connection, you know, future generations of my family, handing down this space of love, perfecting the dwelling land, like reincarnating on this land, and all of these things, like unbelievably deep, powerful convictions that give kind of staying power and willingness for people to come together and figure things out, you know, rather than things that would be more surface level kind of motivations, you know, simply just wanting to have like my food under control, or just wanting to have a community necessarily, right? Like the motivating factors are incredibly strong, and the self-sufficiency as well. And the other thing that's always an interesting thing to observe for me is that there's hundreds and hundreds of settlements across the planet. Each of them operates in their own particular and unique way that arises from the composition of the members of the community. And that's perfect for their community. But you could say that all of these settlements are definitively their kin's domain settlements, right? They're not like all operating under like fundamentally different models, right? They're all comprised of 2.5 acre generally kin's domains, families and giving birth, and that whole thing is consistent across hundreds of communities, right? And there isn't really any other model in the world that can claim that, right? Because a lot of the eco villages, God bless them, right? People striving to create a better world, like God bless them. I'm not disparaging anyone or their effort. But those ideologies are not unified, especially across so many communities. You know what I mean? So it's a really interesting thing to observe and appreciate.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yes, Prakriti, please. Yeah. She's a member of our team as well, as I mentioned earlier, for anybody who didn't see. She helps us make all of our beautiful short videos, which some of you may have seen. So
I just wanted to say to team that thank you so much for sharing the story. It's inspiring, in a way, to know that you learned, and like you learned through that process, and I feel like we can all start with zero knowledge and all of that. So thank you, and then best wishes for your new adventure.
Thank you. Yeah. When I was younger, I would tend not to share. I tended to be more of an introvert, and also when you don't like have a raging success, you're like, well, what am I talking about? But we've come to understand that, just going out and trying is really a success in its own. It's just one step. And so, and so we do try to share and just let people know what we've done. And, we've had our failures too, but yeah, that's just the first step. So thank you.
right. And we're all on the path towards learning and understanding and right. It's only a failure if we stop, It's only a failure if we give up. That's why I try to tell people on these calls and everybody I meet, like there's people in our community that have been looking for their land for like 20 years or more, and they still, haven't gotten there. But like the idea and the persistence is there. I read the books almost 10 years ago, right? And I maybe thought some things would materialize quicker, but I'm unbelievably happy with the way that they have, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And I love who I've become and what I've learned and what I'm able to do. And I think Anastasia's words about not rushing and always being careful are brilliant and just worth remembering, right? Because we all want to live on this beautiful new earth and live in paradise, right? Like who wouldn't? Um, but we got a lot of work to do. Some maybe more than others. I can't speak for anybody else but myself, but you know, I think yeah, we're all working towards it at our own pace, and ultimately we definitely shall have victory in these things, as long as we don't give
Absolutely.
up. I definitely think that everybody will get where they're trying to go.
One of the fundamental things for most people is the change in mindset. For so long, we've been in a situation where we delegate our health to a doctor who actually is just a pharmaceutical salesperson, or we delegate our community to the chairperson of the local HOA or the chairperson of the local council and so on. And yet they all get out of bed and put their pants on the same way that we all do. We're all equal in the eyes of God, the Creator. So there's absolutely no merit in deferring to anybody, not even to King Charles or whoever. They're no different than us, except perhaps they are reptilian in their root, but that's another story. My point is that God gave us dominion over the earth and over all the things that are in it and on it, which includes ourselves. And so part of this mind shift is getting out of the idea that it must be somebody else's responsibility to get into the realization that it's my responsibility. If it's going to be, it's up to me. It's not up to anybody else. And as long as we put our welfare in the hands of somebody else to create our food and somebody else to create our living environment and so on, then we're slaves to that the system. And the whole idea behind the Ringing Cedars, as I understand it, is to get out of the slave environment. It's out of the slave mindset. And that means that for an awful lot of people, that is beyond their capability to even conceive what that's going to mean. They've been so long in the system depending on so-called specialists with piled higher and deeper degree. And that's one of the things that I've been focusing on with the people I've been meeting and talking about. Self-responsibility, complete self-responsibility. We have to be anarchists in our view of how we manage our own life and everything that goes on around us. Yield.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that idea came up yesterday at our readers gathering in Knoxville, Tennessee. We were talking about, I think it almost is exactly same topic, the difference between like eco villages and kins domains, and the idea that the domain is the ultimate expression of individual sovereignty and authority, right? Because ultimately at the end of the day, you as an individual and as a group, as a family, are ultimately answerable for everything that occurs there, right? And like this technocratic system that we've lived in uh, is like a limited liability system, right? Everything is kind of our responsibility, but not really. Somebody else is gonna take the heat for it at the end of the day. The electricity goes out, that's the power company. If the water goes out, maybe it's our fault, maybe it's not, but you know what I'm saying. The internet goes out, maybe it's not our fault, And it's interesting that I feel like it's a summons to the greatest parts of ourselves, right? The most powerful, capable, competent, courageous part of ourselves, to take that level of authority in our lives and to actualize it and to create something around us, right? And to leave an actual mark on the earth rather than just existing in this limited liability system to which we just contribute our labor to keep it functioning. You know what I mean? To actually create something in the world and leave the world better off than we found it, and to be answerable to no one else but ourselves and God, right? How else can we sleep most peacefully at night knowing that we're doing best by ourselves and by God, right? So I'm absolutely in love with that idea. And for those who are willing to take the leap, I think well, what a beautiful leap it is to take.
Totally agree. Totally.
Hey, everybody.
Anna, welcome.
So I've only ever joined Zoom to talk to my Anastasia readers, so I don't even know how to put that hand up.
You got to hit the react button at the bottom, but you're good. You can just jump in.
I know, but I want to learn too. But okay. I discovered the books, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years ago. I locked eyes with a gentleman on the beach in Kauai and invited him to a yoga class on the beach, and then he introduced me to the books, and I kind of grew up like Anastasia in a way. So many of the things were so intimately true to me, but I felt very alone in my realization of them. So it kind of made me feel like, wow, I'm not alone. And then kind of going back to what Petra's saying, because you feel like you're alone on your street, right? But when you start kind of speaking the language, what Anastasia talks about, the way to put a sentence together that really plays on the heartstrings, that we're all the same harp, or we're all the same instrument, really. And so just softly being able to play on those heartstrings with your words, and like the great prophets of old, lots of times they use the simplest analogies, and usually from nature, for why this is so true and so deep and so fulfilling. So I've started just these people that have read the books, or an opportunity to give the book to someone. Thank you so much for getting the books back, like mainstream. I ordered 2 book ones. I keep one in my car to give to someone.
From our site?
Yeah, so I just got 2 more. I mean, I was
awesome.
I think I paid $140 for the last one. And my brother, my little brother, lost it. But I know that it's not really lost. I know that it's probably in the hands of someone that it belongs, that it was supposed to be
Probably
in.
really needed it.
Yeah. So just keeping an extra book on hand to share with someone when you have that really incredible connection has been so encouraging. And yeah, I'm so happy to find you guys. I was born on a lot of land. I'm sitting on a lot of land right now, and it's overwhelming to present this concept to my family. I'm very scared of them. My family has a history, 200 years in this area where I live in New York State, of having a lot of land, and their children growing up and moving away to go to college and taking jobs in big cities, and the land kind of just turning to ruin or being sold off to somebody more industrious. On both sides of my family, my mom's family and my dad's family, we have Civil War era land grants and Revolutionary War era land grants that, we don't have. My brother has like 50 acres of one of them, but the rest are all gone. And so I just want to kind of end that trend in our lineage, and start planting food on it and share it. I think that's probably the best way to be able to afford to keep it in New York State. Very expensive. So I'm hoping to, just get inspiration, and things are happening, like little things are happening. Like right after I read, which book is it about? The Book of Kin, to write your Book of Kin.
6.
Book 6. So I'm thinking how overwhelming this is, because my mom passed away recently, and my dad is like gone off the rails. And so I'm like, this is never gonna happen. We're never gonna get our Book of Kin. My dad's gone crazy, and my mom's gone, and my grandparents are gone, and my sister, my little sister, never having read the books, picks up a Book of Kin in a gift store somewhere and buys it for my dad for Father's Day. Not like Anastasia's Book of Kin, but very much like that. And so it's happening outside of, the realm that I thought it had to happen in, and so it's been encouraging. It's coming from all over, and I'm just trying to ride it out. I hope it happens my lifetime up here in New York, where I'm up on the Canadian border, up by Quebec. So like, I think Tim was saying like who was saying he's going back to Minnesota? Yeah, David. Yeah. So yeah, I thought I have to get away from these, this weather. We live right on Lake Ontario. And Anastasia's encouraged me to, yeah, embrace the seasons and become more resilient to the cold. So I've been working on that.
That's
Good to be here.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anna, thank you so much for sharing. And I wanted to say that the idea of sharing the books or the ideas of the books or the idea of like creating a settlement with family members and that whole thing about many people being involved on a large piece of land. I've heard that story before, right? And like trying to work that out and seeing what you can do with the land. I have something that may be able to help you. I just thought I'd offer just in case it can. But it's essentially like a presentation deck about Kins domain settlements. So something that you would present to someone who has land or maybe capital or something, and to introduce the idea of a settlement in like a visual step-by-step way. It talks about the motivations behind it, real photos of settlements and how they could be executed and things from a practical standpoint, you know, like a pitch deck kind of thing.
Thank
But
Gabriel. I think like the book one with the beautiful blonde girl in the tiny dress, that's a hard presentation to give to someone as to my my business plan. And you know, if they would sit down and read it, then they would see the whole picture. So I did buy the books with the sunflower on the cover because I thought it might, even though I love the original art, I have
that's why they changed the covers. It's
I
exactly
know.
what you're saying.
I read that.
Yep.
When I read that, I said, you know what? They're so right. That would help me share these books with, especially maybe men who could bring it home to their wife and be like,
yeah,
you know, whereas the other one was
totally
a little more fantastical. So yeah, thank you for
more open-minded,
making them available.
Yeah.
And yes, I definitely did in that presentation. So funny because I've like fantasized about there being something like this to present. I'm like, I guess I have to make my own. But yes, I would love to see yours. You're gonna put a link.
I put a ton of effort into it last year. I spent like a couple months researching it and putting it together. And I think it's already convinced a few people who weren't familiar with the idea of settlements to wanting to create a settlement, right? Because I think it does a good job narratively of telling people like the purpose. So if anyone is interested, please, you know, reach out to me. I can share it as a PDF, and if you need it was a template, so it can be edited to your specific you know, circumstances. But as a template, it could be enough to present the idea initially.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, I think if you have me on Telegram, Anna, that would be great. That would be easiest to share it there.
Oh, I don't know if I have time for any more phone time with all my trees I gotta plant.
No. Oh, I see.
But,
well, I'd have to send it to you some way.
Okay, you're saying Telegram's the best way?
Yeah, I'm pretty active there. I can just drop the file, you know, for you there.
Okay, I'll try. Thank you.
Yeah. Or I guess you can email me. Yeah, everybody, my Telegram is I'm faster on Telegram if anybody ever wants to get to me, but you can also email me. I'll put my email in the chat. Anybody would like to email me as well. Much faster on Telegram though. Yeah, well, good luck with all of that, you know. I've heard that story, people trying to get family members and see what you can do. So yeah, best of luck to you.
Gabriel, can I hop in?
Please.
I'm Teresa from California, and I just came out from the California meeting camp out. And believe it or not,
cool.
I joined the California Telegram like 4 days ago on the day when, you know, when I saw it posted there, and I couldn't believe my luck. And so I signed up for that, and it was heavenly. There was only
Was it?
8 of us,
Wow.
but it felt perfect. It was intimate enough, and we just couldn't get enough of each other. And I love the male energy because males add just different energy than females, and I feel like I cannot do it alone. I cannot do it as a woman only.
Mm,
I love those male energies because they brought in a lot more structure and a lot more knowledge. Alex was wonderful, our guide. It
I
was
love
just
Alex.
truly fantastic. He's wonderful. He's wonderful. And
Yeah,
with
he's a good
you,
guy.
with all the rest of the people, with the California group, I really feel like I can do this. Uh,
Wow.
I've been looking. I have a friend on the Zoom as well, and we've been looking for, like, communities, or being out at nature, and it just wasn't sitting with us. I kept like looking at different communities and working with different people, and it just wasn't the right thing. And I read the books
Mm,
bunch of years ago, and I absolutely loved it, just like everybody else. There was some ancient truths resonating inside, and I started rereading them again some time ago, and it was like, this is it. I don't need to look for a community because this is what I want. I want exactly this concept, and having the people who have that very same mind around me. So I'm really hopeful. It might take a while because I'm just the dreamer kind of a person. I'm not much of a
mm,
do person. I love. I've been a gardener for 40 years. I love working with fruit trees, so I'm ready. And I can't thank you enough. I found you through Alpha Vedic a few weeks ago. And I couldn't believe it that you're talking about the Anastasia. So thank you, Gabriel, and thank you everybody else for doing this with us together.
yeah. Teresa, man, I'm so glad to hear that. I haven't even heard back from Alex yet. I wanted to get feedback about the event, and so you're the first one I'm hearing from, and that's great. So anybody who doesn't know,
Completely
Alex
worthwhile.
is he's our regional ambassador in Northern California, hosting meetups and community there, and they just did a 2-day camping trip out in a beautiful state park in California there. And so that's what Teresa is talking about. And we're going to be doing more things like that. And I'm so proud of Alex, man. I can't wait to talk to him. I love that guy. He's such a good guy.
He's amazing.
Really,
Amazing.
he's
He's
such a
so
good
young
guy.
and he's so amazing.
Yeah, he's younger than me. And he's yeah, very competent, sincere, great pick for
Yeah.
an ambassador.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
very good.
interestingly had a guy there who was married to a Russian woman, and he moved to Russia with her because they wanted to do this. And they got a whole bunch of land, and then her and their daughter were killed in the war. And he got maimed. He
Wow.
got wounded. But because he's not a citizen, he's having a really hard time getting the land because it was in his wife's name because she was a citizen. Of course, she was Russian. So I don't know how that's going to evolve, but he was like a kind of treasure trove of knowledge as well. So that was so interesting.
Mm, wow. What
So
was this
thank you
man's
guys.
name? I'm surprised I never
Wyatt is
contacted.
his last name, but he
Uh-huh.
picked it as a first name, Steve Wyatt.
Interesting. Yeah, I hope I get to connect with him. Wow, what a story.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Teresa,
I can't thank you enough.
I wanted to ask you, Teresa, how and when you discovered the books. You already knew about Anastasia when you came upon the.
I read them about 8 years ago, and really loved it. And I reached out to, there used to be some sort of a group who wanted to get together, and I signed up on that, reached out to it, but it was completely mute. There was absolutely nothing going on. Just like what Gabriel said, like on the last Zoom, that it just wasn't the right timing, the connection, the internet or whatever. It was just wasn't in a place yet.
There was no way to connect at that point in time, really.
I suppose, yeah. So it really didn't go anywhere. And so this is like a whole, several years down the road, it's like a whole different animal with you. You're doing all this. So I can't thank you enough. You like invigorated me.
I live for these kinds of stories. I'm thankful for you and for everybody else who's a part of it, to whom it's useful, It's all in service to Anastasia and her dreams. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow. Wow, man, that's great. So successful Northern California camping meetup. I can't wait to hear more about that. That's beautiful. That's so cool. And this is just the first of many. We've got meetups happening all over the place. I told you we just did one in Knoxville, Tennessee. You guys just did one up there in California. We're going to be doing Bali. There's a reader organized one in the Netherlands. Galina would know the date. I think that's later this month in the Netherlands. And stuff is happening all over the place nowadays. And it's just going to keep picking up. It's just going to keep picking up. If anybody here, if any of you ever would like to host a meetup local to you, let us know, and we can help you.
I want to host and invite everyone to come to the woods and stay in my house because that's my style. And then I'm like, oh, maybe you don't invite people from the internet to come to your house. I don't know, but that's my style, and I love hosting. So I think I will have a upstate New York Canadian border meetup soon.
Please. You'll probably get some Quebecers in there as well. I know we've got some great community members in Quebec if they're able to cross the border and all that. And there's a good amount of people in the upstate New York area. We did a readers meetup there in like 2016 and probably had like 20 or 30 people come out. And oh yeah. That was one of the earliest things that I ever did. But yeah, so a bunch of surprisingly Russian families who read the books years before they were published in English had been building their domains there separately, not on the same piece of land, but for years already. At that point in time already had been living there for like 8, 9, 10 years. And so there's a bunch of people who don't make themselves known on the internet. They're active on our email list and people who stay up to date with our news and stuff, but they're not on Telegram and Facebook. So there's many more people out there than we're, consciously aware of. So Anna, please contact me. I know you don't want to be on the phone or the computer, but as much as it takes to help you be successful, please feel free. I'd love to. I think you'd be a great host, and I think you would put together a great event. So you let me know.
Okay, with your encouragement, I might.
I can tell you would put together a wonderful group, and I think people would have a great time. No pressure, but if the desire comes up,
it's
we're
there.
here to help.
It's there, and then there's all the like, what if nobody comes and stuff like that, So
people will.
Even if only one,
and
even if only one person comes,
I know that would be great.
I told a story. So yesterday, the meetup we did in Knoxville wasn't really hosted by me. It was just attended by me. It was hosted by one of our community members whom, I just encouraged. I thought she would be a good hostess, and I was right. But she did a wonderful job hosting this beautiful little meetup. And I told her about something that happened to me, I think in 2016, maybe. I was living in Washington, D.C. I was working with a nonprofit at that time, which required me to live in DC. And I was only, this is probably like a year and a half, 2 years into me doing any of my Ringing Cedars work. So things were still pretty young. And I think this is after meeting Vladimir, maybe, but I forget exactly the timeline. But no, 2017. This is 2017, early 2017. And I wanted to host a meetup in the biggest park in DC. It's called Rock Creek Park. And things were not as developed then as they are now. Um, I bet if you could imagine, uh, we had some level of reach, but not to the degree that we have at this point. And so I wanted to host a meetup. I created an account on meetup.com. I put a little Ringing Cedars thing out there. I was posting on the few channels and things that I had, which I was maintaining solo, doing everything solo at that point, absolutely solo. Um, and I put out an invite for a meetup on our Facebook page, which was pretty active at that point. But I bought some snacks. I picked the date, I picked the time. Um I went to the spot, that I chose, and the time came, and I was the only one there. I was the only one there. I just sat there, and the sun was shining. It was a glorious, beautiful day. And I'm just sitting on the bench and I'm like, okay, God, this is a lesson for me that if you really want to make things successful, if you really want to have people come out and you really want to do this, you got to put more effort into connecting people. You got to do more to make things known. You got to do more and be more efficient. Got to get more people interested, really got to get more attention. And so I had done many meetups after that in different places, across the world or whatever, a lot of indoor ones or speaking at events and things. But the Asheville meetup that I did, the first one that I did this year in maybe late April, was the first one that I had done in a park since that time in DC in 2017 when no one showed up. And this time in Asheville, like 30 people came. And that was after I had canceled I had to reschedule the day before with 24-hour notice because it was raining on the day that I intended. I had someone cancel a flight they were going to fly to be here, and probably like 20-ish people couldn't make it because I changed the date. And so going from being alone on a park bench in 2017 to 30 people actually coming to maybe 50 who would have came to just a simple 4-hour meetup in the park was a very big full circle moment for me. So all that to say, well, things are in a much better position now than they were back then to make things successful, and even if one person comes, it'd be better than me who had nobody, and a couple people. So I just say this not just to you, Anna, but to everybody listening, that any of us, like the Bible says, where two or more are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them. You know what I mean? I think any of us gathering at any point in time is always a success. So we had 10 of us yesterday in Knoxville, and it was amazing. And yeah, I just encourage everybody to meet and share. But I've never shared that story online before. So there you go. Yep. Well,
Yeah, I
beautiful.
just like to say, Gabriel, that you're not alone. We did a meetup as well. We had a bunch of people that were interested. This was years ago, and so we were like, okay, we're going to host this meetup and talk about how we want to develop land or what kind of a community. And we actually had a variety of interest ahead of time, so we thought, okay, this will be good. And of course, the day came and
Yeah,
no
me
one
too. I
showed up.
left that part out. I thought it looked like people had expressed interest that they were coming. So I was like,
Right.
yeah.
Yep. And so you're like, all right, well, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So
That's
Anna, you should
right.
definitely host. And if no one comes, it's like a badge of honor at this point.
Yeah, I'll be in good
Totally.
company.
Yeah, I've been there. We've all been there maybe to some degree. Um, but yeah, the whole one of the biggest things that I consider a service that we can provide as this foundation is that to help people who are trying to organize be more successful with their efforts, so people who are
Yeah.
organizing in different areas, we've built a communication infrastructure to support them, right? Because as we were saying earlier, this is a decentralized thing. Some degree of, you could term centralization. I wouldn't say that. I just say discoverability was needed. So that's the entire
Yeah.
point of the foundation, to make these things discoverable to those who are interested, and to help magnify the efforts of the people, right? So anybody who's trying to host, that's our whole reason for existence, to help you find people to make these things accelerate, so you don't necessarily got to find them all on your own, you know um and things will just increase as well after we publish the books. Like, forget it, it's kind of a done deal after that point. But yeah, so just putting that out there. Wow. Inspiring stuff, guys. Inspiring stuff. Feel like I'm talking a lot myself. I'd love to hear from anybody else if this is making you guys think of anything, or inspiring any ideas in you, or anything anybody would love to share.
Yes, have the courage to speak up. We all want to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm really interested in how everyone here discovered the books. I feel like it's such a miracle to find them with all the, I'm not an avid reader. Like, it takes a lot to get me to read a book. So the fact that the books found me is a miracle, and I'm interested in how they found everyone else.
Yeah, I can share how I found the books. So I think it's 2022, early 2022, I guess. I heard the interview that Gabriel did in Inspired Channel. So before that, I didn't knew anything about these books. So after that interview, I learned about the books and then read it. And I have an interesting story. So I read book 3 first, book 3 to book 8.2, and then 1 and 2, and then I haven't finished the book 10. I'm listening the audio version in YouTube and rereading the book 5. So it's interesting. And lately what I have found,
Love that.
yeah, rereading the books, is that I'm kind of getting how far we have gone from who we truly are, like how everything doesn't make sense at all, like how distorted the system and everything is. Like, I'm reading book 5 currently, and like it is hitting me so hard. Like, I thought I understood
Mm.
that everything is not working, but I'm having a deeper, I guess, a different understanding of how everything is not working, and so it's amazing, yeah. So yeah, and I feel like I am changing lately. Like, I'm being called to wake up at 4 or 3:30. I do my exercises and then read few chapters of the book every day, and then start my day. That's how I'm involved with the books right now. So yeah, and then they are amazing. I feel like amazing is doesn't describe how I feel about the books. So yeah, it's life
Mm.
changing. Yeah.
And now you're part of our team, and I couldn't be
Yeah,
more grateful.
yeah, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity as well. Like, I have wanted to volunteer for something meaningful, for so long. I have tried like
Mm.
joining all the organization, but something didn't resonate. Like, um, I
Wow.
guess, like, but once I learned that we are open for volunteers, so here I am. So yeah, yeah. I feel blessed. I feel like I have found I feel like I'm doing something valuable to this, like, to humanity and to art. So yeah, thank you.
You
Thank you
definitely
for
are.
all the work that you do, and thank you for creating everything that's here. So yeah, thank you.
It's my duty in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always tell people Anastasia needs help, you know? She needs willing help. God needs willing help to manifest all these things, and all of us are capable. So I'm lending my hand where I'm able. That's all. And so are all of us together. But wow. Yeah, I'd love to hear more as well to Anna's question about how people found the books. That's always a wonderful story. I can share mine if nobody else wants to jump in.
I
But
want to add something before you start.
please.
Yeah, and Gabriel sent me those books. And thank you so much for that. Like book 3 to 8.2. And thank you so much for that. I carry
Oh,
them
I sent you
everywhere I go.
those? Oh yeah.
You
I
don't
I
remember
sent
that? Yeah, yeah. Like
I
I think
send a lot of books to people. I send a lot of stuff to people, man.
yeah, I think in
I
the
didn't
interview
remember
or
that.
somewhere you mentioned that you have like free books available.
Yeah.
I checked online, the books
Yeah.
were not available, and I emailed you, and then
Yeah.
after a while
I
you
sent them to
replied
you.
saying, yeah, and I think that
Yeah.
is the bestest gift I have ever received in my entire life. And
Wow. I
yeah, I
forgot
have
about
actually,
that.
yeah,
Amen.
yeah.
That's
I have carried
beautiful.
it everywhere with me. Like that's one thing that I will have.
Right. When you were living in Canada, I sent them to you. That's right. And I
Yeah,
sent
and
you a
I took
painting
it to
too.
Nepal, and then it's in Japan with me right now, and I don't know where it will go with me after this. So
Wow. So I forgot about that. That's
yeah,
amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I had one thought as well. Like when I heard about these books, I felt like, okay, this is the book that I want to read to my kids, like as a nighttime reading
Mm.
books. That's like I wanted to have something for my children, like always. And when I learned about the books, these were the books that I thought, okay, I have something that I will read to my children every night, and I'll repeat the
Wow,
series.
that's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. So
That is beautiful.
I'm done. Thank you. Thank you.
So great to hear from you. Yeah. Ivana, I saw that you had your hand up, please.
Oh, I just thought that I will share how I learned about Anastasia's books. My sister, who lived at the time, lived in Germany, she told me about them a few years ago. And then I tried to find them in English. And as you know, it's not as easy as in the other languages. And so at the beginning of this year in the spring, I went to Europe, but my sister bought a piece of land, 2.5 acres of land, and she was telling me about all this Anastasia and the kingdomates and all that stuff. So I went to visit her on her new land, and she pointed to a piece of land next to hers, and I ended up purchasing the land and then started reading the book. And so I absolutely fell in love, as everybody, with Anastasia's vision. And now we did find the books. My daughter now is reading them in English, and thanks Gabriel, because she was able to download them from as a PDF. And so, yes, so
Amazing.
I am in a process of building my own King's domain in Poland. And I absolutely love what we are doing here in North America.
Mm. Wow.
It's very inspiring. Altogether, very inspiring.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is that all these stories, it's so beautiful because everybody's story is so unique, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
story is so particular and specific to them and their circumstances that, like, I feel like, oh, Tim, great to have you, brother. Tim's got to go. Very glad to have you here. Looking forward to connecting more. And thank you for sharing today, brother. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about my story in comparison to the two stories that I've just heard, and I'm like, wow, everybody's story is so different. To make a long story short, I found the books coming up on 10 years ago. So I'm 29 now. So I found the books right before my 19th birthday. So I was 18. And I was somebody who was really looking for a lot of um, right before I was looking for a lot of spiritual truth. I saw that I had some level of ability and competence to do things in life, but I didn't know where really to direct my energy meaningfully. Everything was kind of empty. And I was searching, I'd read all these different spiritual books and things, had a certain kind of worldview, but just wasn't satisfied. I wasn't satisfied with what I'd found in exploring the world religions and different philosophies and things, and just didn't know where to dedicate my energy in life, and kind of found everything kind of meaningless, truthfully. But a spiritual teacher that I was following at the time, who I no longer follow, but he he was going to be doing an interview, like a radio interview. He lived in Europe. And so I would have had to wake up at like 5 or 6 in the morning to listen to this interview online. But I had the strong, unbelievably strong urge to listen to this guy's interview for whatever reason. Wake up at 5 in the morning and just listen to this dude's interview. So I do, and I'm sitting there on the floor with my laptop listening to this live radio thing, and the discussion's kind of meaningless. But then at one point he says, the Siberian master Anastasia. And those words just grip me. They just possess me like to the highest degree. I'm like, Siberian master. And I would have known about this person. Who is this person? Siberian master Anastasia. In the middle of the interview, Siberian master Anastasia on Google, before Google was completely censored and everything. So then I find ringingcedars.com and I look, and then I see all these testimonials and things like that. Best books I've ever read, soul changing, life changing, finally the truth, and all of this. And so I'm like, okay, I need these books like desperately, but I'm broke. I'm 18. I'm flat broke. So I go on eBay and I find book one for $2 at that time. God bless, $2 and $4 shipping for book shipping. So I get book one with buddy, I probably had like 15 bucks in my bank account or something. So, so I was like, I was tight, but I got book one, and I think I got book two as well. And that's where it started. I was somehow able to get the rest of them used. All my books are used that I have, except book 10 that I got new. I still have that same set of books from that time to this day. And I devoured book one within a day, and I devoured the first 8 books, I think, within 2 weeks. And book 8.2 took a little longer, life circumstances, but halfway through book one, I'm sorry if you guys have heard me say this story before. I'd realized that I found everything that I was looking for as far as like undistorted truth, right? I was like, oh my God, I finally found clear truth where it's not like egoistic or trying to appear mystical or trying to be inaccessible and, just like so wise and, obtuse and all this. And I'm like, finally, I have found the clear truth, free of dogma and all this. I'm like, I couldn't even believe that I was holding this in my hand. I'm like, this exists. It was just mind blowing to me. And I'm like, I have found something that is going to make my life so happy that I cannot contain this to myself. And I have to do everything to help other people find the same happiness, which has been, bestowed upon me here. And so that's what led me into wanting to connect other readers and discovering the problems that existed at that time with connecting people and all of this. So that was the whole driving motivation. But I said, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And here we are. But that was my story on how I found the books. I hope that wasn't too long. I tried to condense it.
Amazing.
Everybody's story is so different,
I can share if you like when I found the books.
Yes, go ahead.
I think it was around 2005-ish. I was around 30. I think it was in one of the alternative magazines we were reading. I think it's Nexus magazine here in Australia. I think they're still going as well. So we just brought the series outright because it sounded really good, even in the article. And even now, like I've read it twice through, only from book 1 to book 8.2. That's all I've got at the moment. And I'm on my third read. I'm up to book 6 in the third time, but it's been much more spaced out this time because I've had other books in between. But every time I've read the books, I'm always finding new things in there. Like, I guess it's about my understanding at any given point. Yeah, it's just been amazing. It's also helped me to understand, like, all the other things I've learned. It sort of brings it all together and makes everything else make sense as well. So, and it's just been life-changing. I don't know how else to describe it. I've been a gardener for decades as well, so since my 20s. And so I've moved a lot as well. So I've rented a lot of different places and I've started a lot of gardens. So it's just really nice I'm really looking forward to having my own space and just staying there and watching the trees grow old. And yeah, that's about it for me.
That was back when Dr. Sharashkin was doing, I heard from the publisher of the books. She said between 2008 and 2010, they were paying for him to travel and speak at all these different places with the proceeds of the books. So I remember, I think he spoke at an event for the Nexus magazine. There's some YouTube videos about that.
Yep.
Yep. That's crazy. Amazing. Anna, I said Anna, I'm so used to talking to Russians. Anna, what do you think of all the stories you've heard so far? We've got a few stories here.
I just love it. It's such a miracle. Also, I gotta say, I don't know, this just came to me. It's so silly, but I'm like, someday there will be an Anastasia book in every hotel room placed by the Miguels.
I'll do my part.
You're
I'll do
doing
my
it.
part.
You're doing
Yeah,
it.
like how they have the Bible in all the hotel room drawers. Yeah, why not? Why not?
Yeah,
Actually,
that's
to your point, I'm friends with 2 Russian sisters who own a resort in the Poconos, and it's called Magnolia Streamside Resort. If anybody wants to take a beautiful vacation to the Poconos and meet some beautiful dedicated Ringing Cedars readers, but they have a wellness spa there, recently completed, beautiful little resort, nature based, but at their hotel, very successful. They've got the entire multiple copies, I believe, of the series in their library, and they have paintings from Kumar Aljanev, who is the artist whom you see his art all across our channels. And they have paintings in all the rooms. And yeah, so that has materialized to a small degree in a little corner of the Poconos, but will spread out more, certainly.
So it's already happening in my neck of the woods.
Yep. There you go. Yep. Anybody ever wants to have a beautiful wellness getaway in the Poconos, let me know. I mean, I'm not an affiliate, but they're beautiful and they've donated to the foundation and wonderful sisters. But yeah, definitely.
Hey,
yeah, this is
Gabriel,
great.
maybe
Yeah.
you should tell Anna about all the Russians in New York.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can probably get in touch. There's one guy. I have to see. I think he's still in New York, but the recent interview we did with the producer of the Two Brothers film. I'm not sure if anybody here saw that interview on our YouTube channel, but it's a Ringing Cedars movie that they just premiered in Russia, inspired by the story in book 4. Beautifully well done movie. But the guy who helped organize the fundraiser is one of my old friends from that area, who one of the Russian families whose family had already been, they had a beautiful domain. The last time I saw photos of it, they'd been living there for like 10 years already, him and his sister. His sister's name is Lubov, which is love. And then there is his name is Eugene. So if you want, I can get in touch with them and try to connect. I know, and they are more in touch with a lot of the families in the upstate New York area. So I should reach out to him anyway. It's been a long time. He's a good friend. So I'm going to make a note of that. I'm going to get in touch with him.
And where are they in New York?
Upstate. I don't know exactly where specifically, but I know New York is big, but I forget specifically.
So,
It's
so
upstate.
Anna, just to nail it a little bit more, there's a whole number of Russians who settled in upstate New York, and they knew about the books and Anastasia, and they didn't create a settlement, but they each created their kind of own individual domain in the same general area in New York. So they're all living there, not too far from you, presumably. And they're mostly Russian, and they all created these Kins domains in upstate New York.
Yep, that's exactly it.
We're gonna run into each other somehow now that I know about them.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, delightful people. A lot of delightful people up there. Beautiful people. And it's good. I got to connect with Eugene because he had attended a bunch of my early meetups. Um, and I started a lot in New York City, and upstate New York was probably one of the first gatherings I ever did, and
Wow.
it was very successful. Yeah, we were up in the Catskills somewhere. There was a friend of ours at the time. She had like 1,400 acres of land, wasn't able to acquire it, but it was the same kind of family dynamic story of like trying to see what the family will do with it. And so we were on her land for that gathering, but and she helped me a lot get things started, gave me some money to do a website when I had nothing. Like she funded some of my earliest efforts, a couple $100 here and there, but God bless her, Susan, if you're watching this. But yeah.
Well, Mark, since you're not afraid to speak, how did you find the books?
Well, I've told the story here a couple of times, but I guess I could say it again.
Please.
I have a friend acquaintance who currently lives in California, and we don't interact a whole lot, but every once in a while we email. And he just, in one of his emails, casually mentioned, "Oh, I'm reading these books called The Ringing Cedars of Russia." And he didn't say anything else, but it hooked me. I had to find out what these were. And so I looked at my local library because I have very little money. And I saw that there were supposedly two copies of volume one, and they were both out, they weren't on the shelf. So I put in a hold on them, and I waited 3 months and nothing happened. And so I finally realized and figured out that these books had been stolen. Both copies of volume one had been stolen. So I finally put in a interlibrary loan request and got it within a few weeks. And as soon as I started reading it, I knew I had to have them all. So I had enough to buy at that time the whole series of 1 through 8.2 for something like $135 or something like that. So I just kept reading them, and I just kept loving them, and I totally love them still and always will. And I'm only in book 7 of my second read. For whatever reasons, it took me a long time to begin and to start going through my second read, but I'm in book 7 of it, and you know, in a way, you know, they're my life. You know, I have a life kind of as well, but there's such unbelievable food and sustenance for me that you know, there's a lot of love there in association with knowing about them and reading them and having them. And that's just my little story.
Thank you, brother. It's great to hear that story. What a great friend who just, you know, you always take
I
that
think what
little
you
bit
said,
of,
Mark, is interesting because in a way, the universe knows what we want. And even when we're faced with all kind of challenges, excuse me, somehow if we keep our focus on that desire and keep our energy, our optimism, our expectation that it's going to come our way, but we don't define how the universe is going to provide it, then somehow it will eventually appear in our life. And I think that's one of the things that, as a bio-robot in this avatar, the spirit knows everything it needs to know, or the creative spirit, the radiant being of light that we are. But the avatar, with its ego, has to overlay all that and make it seem like, oh no, this is never going to happen, or we get the victim idea and can get frustrated and lose that focus. Keeping your focus on what we want with a high sense of joy, satisfaction, and living as if it's already been accomplished, because at some level, on some dimension, it already exists. We're already on that timeline. We just don't see it until the circumstances come through. And your determination to make that happen brought it about. Good for you, Mark. Well done. Thanks for sharing that story.
Thank you.
yeah.
You most welcome.
It's been great to hear all these stories. I haven't heard so many at once in a while, so it's pretty nice to hear so many. And it's one of the things that makes me happiest too. You know, the books. We're so lucky to be alive at the time when these books are available, right? This monumental
Oh, yeah.
moment in human history where this type of stuff is accessible, where it hasn't been for thousands of years. You know, and so
Yeah.
we're extremely blessed. You know, at any point in time that we find the books, we're remarkably blessed beyond our ability to understand. You know. And so I just want to share that we're right about the 2 hour mark here. So maybe I'll look to start wrapping things up, but I want to ask the group, anybody, if there's anything that you'd like to share, any thoughts that you had during this conversation, or just how you're feeling about this meeting and your experience with this call. I'd love to hear anything you have to share before we get off. So the floor is open to anybody who'd like to share.
Deathly silence.
Takes a minute.
Yeah, I'll say
Zoom.
like this call is, I think this is my first call that I have attended like full on. But I do watch like YouTube videos of the recorded call, and it's amazing to be here. Like it's like when you are all alone and like you feel like okay, the dream is like far away. You feel alone, right? So, but being here it's inspiring. Just to know that okay, there are people there who do have the same dreams that you have, and things are moving. So thank you so much. Yeah, it was wonderful
Yes.
being here today. So yeah.
Thank you, Prakriti. Yeah, that's what these calls are for. I'm glad that
Mhm.
you feel that way, that you have that experience. That's why I do these. So glad to hear.
Yeah. So you were saying me, Gabriel, the best way to connect with you is through Telegram?
Telegram, yeah. I'm at Pristine Origins on Telegram. All one word.
Pristine Origins. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I
Anybody
really
wants to
do
reach out,
want to
give me
have a
some grace with
conversation.
reply periods. I have a lot of messages that I have to get
Mhm.
to, but I appreciate everyone's patience and grace
No,
with
really?
my replies. Yeah. uh, Emily, oh, thank you. So grateful for
Well,
your
in a
time
way,
and
you've opened
dedication,
Pandora's
Gabriel.
box.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I have, but I'm here to serve, and I do what I can. Emily, thank you for joining.
I feel
Um,
the same way.
thank you for your comment. Inspiring and enlightening. Tamara, thank you for sharing. Glad you feel that way. Yeah, does anybody else want to share before we get off here? All right. I guess not.
Pristine Origins.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Yep. David, thank you for being here, brother. It was a pleasure to meet you. I look forward to connecting more, hopefully, and hearing more about your journey
Pleasure.
and being able to contribute if I can. Um, Yeah, so everybody, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Everybody on YouTube, thank you for your time and attention. And if you want to get involved in anything we're doing, Anastasia.Foundation is the website. You can donate, you can volunteer, attend our events. We're all in this together. Many hands make a miracle. And this is a movement for the people, by the people. So we're here to serve you in any way that we can, and we will continue to do so. So thank you all for being here. Like, comment, subscribe, game the YouTube algorithm, help suggest us to more people who are looking for exactly this. So thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful night wherever you are in the world. Beautiful day.
Blessings to your
Thank
family too.
you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.